And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Good afternoon. I'm National Weather Service Meteorologist John Cowen with your Alaska Marine Forecast. We'll start off taking a look at sea ice across the North Slope. As you can see, we have some melting going on across the immediate coastline, but otherwise pack ice pretty entrenched in place. Not a whole lot of change expected over the coming days. Taking a look at our surface weather, you can see the west coast is looking pretty wet. We have a series of systems that'll be moving in from the Bering, kind of keeping conditions cooler and wetter across the west coast, with a little bit of heavier rain moving into the area Wednesday. Otherwise, high pressure across the interior, keeping things pretty stable across much of the region. The Gulf Coast looking pretty stable as well. Tuesday, again, we have a series of fronts that'll be moving in from the Bering. Again, west to southwesterly flow is going to keep things pretty cool and moist across the area. Plenty of showers moving into the interior Tuesday. The Aleutian chain looking pretty decent weather with some high pressure remaining entrenched over the next few days. As we get into Wednesday, now we have a stronger system that'll be coming in from Siberia, moving into the Bering, so a pretty healthy dose of rain with this one. Not a whole lot of wind with it, but the heavier rain is expected with this system. We have a low moving into the northern Gulf as well on Wednesday, and that's going to help keep the showery weather in place for the Panhandle, but nothing too significant. And then as we get into, or coming back to Tuesday for our marine forecast for the Panhandle, winds generally going to be out of the west around 15 to 20 knots or so, seas about 5 to 7 feet in the offshore areas, and then 2 to 3 feet for the inshore areas. Wednesday, again, looking about the same. We have mostly westerly flow with starting to become easterly as we get that low starting to develop over the northern Gulf. 10 to 15 knots in most areas. Sea states pretty low, again, around 5 to 7 feet in the offshore areas. Tuesday over the Cook Inlet and Prince William Sound areas, we're looking at generally westerly winds around 10 to 15 knots. Few areas farther out, especially south of the Kenai Peninsula, looking at some stronger winds out there pushing up into above 30 knots in that area. Some higher sea state there, but otherwise generally for the Cook Inlet and Prince William Sound, we're looking at about 2 to 3 foot seas for most areas there. Wednesday, those winds getting a little bit stronger south of the Kenai Peninsula, again starting to push over 35 knots. Seas up to 10 feet now again south of the Kenai Peninsula, getting even higher into those offshore areas. But again, the nearshore areas, Cook Inlet, Prince William Sound over the next couple of days, generally 10 to 15 knots and 2 to 3 foot seas. Coming back towards the eastern Aleutians and the Alaska Peninsula, westerly winds, again, 10 to 15 knots, about 3 to 4 foot seas in most areas, up to 6 feet around Kodiak Island with some of those stronger winds northwest of the island there. Again, Wednesday, that area of stronger winds north of Kodiak Island, otherwise still looking at about 10 to 15 knots for most areas. And then coming back across the central and western Aleutians, winds pretty low as we have a high pressure system again that's really entrenched across this area. Variable winds around the 10 knot range, 2 to 4 foot seas for most areas. Same story on Wednesday, very little change there. And then coming up into the west coast of Alaska, winds generally south to southwest in most areas, 15 to 20 knots, and then 3 to 5 foot seas in most areas. Same story on Wednesday, very little change there. And then coming up to the northern coastline, we have again 10 to 15 knot winds on Tuesday, with very little change expected for Wednesday, turning a little bit more offshore from Kotzebue to Cape Lisburne and Point Lay, that area, but otherwise minimally impactful, about 2 to 4 foot seas for most areas. And that'll wrap up our marine forecast. I'm meteorologist John Cowen.